Let's go live to Washington. Our correspondent Analyst is with our Sky News politics analyst, former ambassador to the United States, Joe Hockey.
Joe Hockey, thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
I mean, it is all about turnout, just like Tom Connell was saying before there. What are you seeing in turnout that has you maybe thinking how this is going to go?
Well, I'm interested that in 2020 there was 101 million Americans that voted early, and in this election it was down about 85 million. So that's a significant drop. Harris needs a big turnout to win this election. And the fact that, in particular, there was a drop in the turnout from women in early polling sends an early message that she could be in a bit of trouble.
Because that should be the demographic coming out for Kamala Harris, especially when we're talking about states that in America, it's not just the president on the ballot. You have local races, but in a couple of swing states, you have abortion on the ballot as well. There's no single issue that's activated more women in this election. Do you think it's going to translate for the Harris campaign this time around? I'm
just not sure, Annalise. The fact is more white women voted for Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020. Of course, in 2016 he was promising to change the Supreme Court, and by 2020 he had changed the Supreme Court. And really, we won't know until we actually see the final result whether it was a material issue. There's no doubt the Democrats have prosecuted very effectively the case that the Republicans are in a mess on abortion. It is a hugely divisive issue. It has become an issue that has divided the sexes. And as if America hasn't got enough division on race and geography and wealth, now suddenly your gender is a divider in politics.
And I mean, we saw that play out in the 2022 midterms as well, when we were supposed to have the big red wave that didn't eventuate. But one of the other things I really noticed with this election, just out talking to voters, is the generational divide. And that's not falling in the traditional Democrat lines that we've seen when we're out talking to people, young women who are worried about the economy. That's become a big issue for them. I don't know if you've seen something similar with the kind of generational divide in this election?
Well, the economy is always going to be the number one issue, and it is right around the world. That's pretty consistent. It's also the case that right around the world, incumbent governments are in a lot of trouble everywhere. And it's because they've got high inflation, because people have been hurting. Now, I think if Donald Trump had run a better campaign, he would have more effectively prosecuted the case that Kamala Harris is part of the incumbent government. But he was.
So you don't think he ran a good campaign?
I think he was.
It's been going
a bit,
for 2 years.
I know, it's been going a long time. Everyone's suffering a lot of fatigue, I can tell you. But I think he drifts off message, and he calls it the weave. Privately, he says, "Look, this is the weave that gets me back to where I want to be." But the problem is that when you've got a lot of hostile media and a lot of third-party critics, they'll just take the weave rather than the end story. And the end story is that people are really concerned about the economy. So that's given room for abortion to go up the list of issues that matter and are able to be discussed in the general debate about the election.
So what are you watching for tonight?
Tonight I'm watching North Carolina, absolutely. Every state has a different timetable for counting. North Carolina has already counted all the mail-in ballots, and they'll announce them tonight when the ballots close. Every state has a different time when they close their ballots. Some are 7:30, some are 9 o'clock. It varies. But North Carolina is a state where they've had, the Republicans should win. They should win reasonably comfortably. They've had a terrible candidate for governor who is 12 points behind and disastrous. Trump has cut him. But Trump has been reasonably ahead in the state.
He's still there.
He's still there. Yeah, he's still a candidate. I think if they could have cut him, they would have.
Yeah.
But the fact is, that's a state that if Harris wins, then Trump's in a lot of trouble, and if Trump wins reasonably well, then that's a positive sign for Trump. The second one I'm looking at is actually Virginia. Now, this is a state Joe Biden won by 10 or 11 points. It has a Republican governor, but if it's coming in close for the Republicans, that's a bad sign for Harris. So they're the two states, I think, that are the best indicators. And look, everything else could take days to get the results. Talk about the blue wall and everything else. I think it'll take days. You've got to look at turnout overall. and also whether there is a move against the incumbents in particular states.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned North Carolina because my colleague James Morrow is there keeping an eye on all of that for us. I know Kieran's about to ask you a question, but when we're talking about Virginia in particular, it is really interesting because Glenn Youngkin's a very popular Republican governor. He sticks to those issues of grocery taxes and highways and things that people really care about when it comes to elections, education. And Virginia has a very red history. If you drive a few hours down in Virginia, you start seeing Confederate flags.
Oh, sure.
So this is a state that the Republicans should be able to pick up. But Youngkin also distanced himself from Donald Trump. Do you think there's that factor at play as well?
Well, there's quite a few factors at play. It's been Northern Virginia, which borders on Washington, D.C., that has changed the dynamic. As Washington, D.C. has expanded beyond its borders, a bit like Canberra into Queanbeyan, then you've started to find that there's higher income households that feel that they've got the capacity to go and vote Democrat.
That's a very diplomatic way of saying people are escaping the big blue city because it's badly managed.
Yeah, well, that's right. In fact, I discovered today, someone said to me, I can vote as a resident. You can probably vote.
You can't vote for president.
Not for president,
yeah, but
we can vote for mayor.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like the mayor either, so, you know, there you
good
go.
luck with that. The taxes are bad enough, aren't they?
That's right. No, I've missed the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a pretty useless vote. I voted in DC. I think it's 93% last time Democrat, so, and you don't get a senator or a local representative.
Yes,
so
that's right, yeah.
I got the sticker.
Well done. Yeah.
Let me ask Joe Hockey. Joe, great to see you. It's Kieran here.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the weave that Trump calls it. And I wonder, do you include in that his riff on the integrity of the voting system that re-emerged in recent days, Joe? Because I just wonder, is that the sort of message, if there were any wavering independents still out there, that would win them over?
Look, this is Donald Trump. I mean, Kieran, I've been winning when he's won and lost, more particularly golf rather than in elections. But he doesn't like losing, and you know, the fiercest term he can deploy against someone is "you're a loser," and so he's taking out insurance, and frankly, I don't think it carries. I mean, this election. It comes back to how many people are actually voting and whether it's an increase in the voter turnout. But I'd just say this. Donald Trump, as of today, is polling higher than he ever did against Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden. He's actually polling higher. It's never been this close. I still feel that there is a shy Trump voter out there that has not disclosed their vote to any pollsters. I still feel they're out there, and they're the ones that, even though they don't like his rhetoric and don't like the way he behaves, they're voting for him because they think he's going to deliver a stronger economy.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful democracy, a great ally of ours. It does have an issue, of course, we report on it week in, week out, the gun violence, the civil unrest. How worried are you, as people go to the ballot box, that we see some violence off the back of this?
Look, I'm not worried. There will be, minor incidents or significant, but a number of incidents, but they'll be minor. I don't see it as a repeat of 2020, and I hope it isn't a repeat of 2020. I think the most fragile moment we've seen in American democracy, certainly since I've lived here over the last 8 years, was the moment when there was an assassin's bullet that hit Donald Trump. And if that had have been accurate, I think America would look very different today. And thank God it wasn't. And I think there was equal relief amongst Democrats, Republicans, people right across the nation, that the assassin's bullet didn't hit him in the way that could have.
Joe Hockey, just on that, Andrew Clennell here. If we look back at this campaign, the assassination attempt was a turning point for both sides, because you had, after that, the Biden camp, or the Democrats realised that Biden had to go. What would have happened had that assassination attempt not happened, if we had a Trump-Biden contest? And I'm also intrigued by the influence of Barack Obama in all of this. He was said to have pushed Joe Biden out, essentially. We see him at rally after rally. How big of a say does he have with the Harris camp? And finally, can I just say I'm very confused by the blue tie, given your predictions.
Well, I'm trying to be a little bit neutral. I've got a business that deals with both sides here, so forgive me for that on Sky. But firstly, in relation to Joe Biden, look, I think it was Nancy Pelosi who was the greatest influencer in deciding that he was going to go. And at the end of the day, she was able to commission polling that convinced Joe Biden that he had to go. But he was very reluctant. Obviously, with the assassin's bullet, that added to the significance of the decision. But really, Donald Trump would be winning by a margin as large as Ronald Reagan tonight if he was against Joe Biden. And now privately, very senior Democrats are conceding that the cognitive decline is much more obvious. So that's the issue. The second issue is Barack Obama was very late to the piece in endorsing Harris. Obama wanted to have an open convention where there was, going to be a very real debate about who would be the candidate. The Clinton forces came out early. Now, there is a Clinton versus Obama divide in the Democratic Party. And because Clinton and Hillary Clinton came out very early and their surrogates came out very early to back Harris, Obama was put into a corner. Since the moment he endorsed her, he has been bringing his star power to back Harris. It's quite interesting that he has also brought his operational team in, and they are very much at the forefront of the Harris campaign. Now, that is creating division with the Clinton side of the party. And there is already an arm wrestle about who's going to get what positions in a Harris administration. And that's a battle between the Obama side of the party and the Clinton side of the party. And then there was a third question, but I've forgotten what it was, Andrew.
Well, we've run out of time because your window has closed for us, but we appreciate it. You're looking sharp, blue tie, red tie, whatever it is. Looking sharp as always, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.